What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Host. Last night, we finished, I almost said we kicked off, we kind of capped off. We capped off on our series, Remain. Man, this series has been amazing. Amazing. Love getting text. Love it. But, man, last night you talked about peace. Another one of those messages. I think me and Kelly talked about it, and it's been a perfect series to kick off 2021 with. But we're just going to talk about it a little bit more, break it down a little bit more. So going into the first question, what does true peace look like?
Yeah, I think that with the peace that we're talking about is a everlasting peace. Like I hit on, I had the question of, man, have you ever experienced peace before? And I would say that all of us have at some point in our life experienced peace, but that tends to be the thing that is like most searched for. People are searching for peace. They want a way to experience peace, and they're dealing with anxiety and worry and fear and all of these different things, and they're seeking after peace. And it's one of those things to where I was like, well, what kind of peace did you have then? Was it the kind of peace that the world sees peace? Because I think that a lot of times that's kind of what we're looking for, and we're looking for the wrong kind of peace. And it's one of those things where it's like, I understand, because I think that for me personally, that's a peace that like I would seek after as well. You don't want any conflict, and that's really what worldly peace looks like. I mean, we hear about world peace. We hear about, man, I just want everyone to get along and everyone just to be together. And while that's okay, while that's something that's like, okay, that's awesome. You don't want arguing. You don't want conflict. You don't want any confrontation. You don't like that.
Yeah.
That's not gonna last. Like, there's gonna be conflict. There's gonna be hard times. There's gonna be people who think differently than you, that you may or may not agree with. There's gonna be conflict. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And because we're not perfect. No one's perfect. So it's like, man, that's gonna happen. So, man, what's a peace that will be everlasting peace? I don't want something that's there 1 second and gone the next. I don't want it just to be based on perfection. And I know we talked about joy a lot of times comes from perfection, but I think that the peace that we're searching for often comes from perfect situations. And it's like, that's not going to happen. Like, it's so rare that everything's going to go exactly how you want. Yeah. And so what's this everlasting peace? What's it look like? And instead of there not being any conflict, the perfect everlasting peace is one that's not focused on that, but it's focused on completion. It's about being complete. And whenever you realize that, you kind of begin to notice, man, there's some voids in my life. A lot of times you don't want to. A lot of times you want to act like everything's A-okay. You don't want to address the problem. But we're trying to fill a void, and we tried to fill it with people, with relationships. And while relationships can be good, they need to be the ones that last forever are founded upon God, His foundation. The ones that will last eternity are based on that. So that goes to having a completely different perspective on that. And we can dive and talk about that forever. But to have that void in your life be made whole, you must go to the one who can make you whole. And that brings the completion of, man, even though this is going on, I have peace. Because I know who I am. I know whose I am. But just real quick, I know we've spent a lot of time on this first question, but I think that a lot of times we do seek, man, different pleasures of the world to give us peace. Really, we're looking for peace in the wrong places. And one of those, like I just talked about, is with people. And realizing that, man, people, a lot of times we compete and not complete. A lot of times you're competing with someone. You're competing with an expectation that someone has. So a lot of times it will trick you to think that, oh man, they make me complete. But there's only one that can truly make you complete.
That's so good. I say this every week. Take notes. So good. Next question here. We have 2 more left. The last one we're going to kind of land the plane on and spend a little more time there because I think it's really important. But question 2, how can you experience peace?
Yeah, and it was the 2 points that I had from last night's message is you can experience peace through a person. You know, it's funny because it's like, oh, you can't experience peace with people. We're looking for people. But you can with the person, but it's just one person, and his name is Jesus. And so you can experience peace through a person, in a person. His name is Jesus, and he is the only one that is perfect.
Yeah.
He's sinless, blameless. So you can find peace in him. He wants to give you peace. It talks so much in the Bible about he will give you peace. He's left us peace. He will bring you peace. And the peace beyond understanding. And we talked about that. We dove into it. And so you can find peace in a person. And he even calls himself the Prince of Peace. He can give it to you. He will give you that peace. But it's not, the question isn't, man, will he really give me peace? The question is, will you give him you? And you have to go, man, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the next question with it. But I'm going to surrender. It's all about you. Another way that you can do it is in your purpose. But to know your purpose, you must know the one who gives you a purpose. And but a lot of times with anxiety, with worry, with fear, with stress, whatever it is, we don't see a purpose. We don't see a purpose behind what we're going through, what we're struggling with, all the thoughts, all the things that may happen. We don't see a purpose, and that leads often to, well, I don't see a purpose for my own life. But God has a purpose for you. If you woke up this morning, you have a purpose. God gave you breath in your lungs, and he's not done with you. So to experience peace, you look to the person, the Prince of Peace, which is Jesus. Then you see your purpose in your life. Don't give up. It's not over. You're not too far gone. You haven't messed up too much. And what you're going through, man, God has a purpose for. We talked about the pain in your life. We talked about it with hope. We talked about it with joy. Man, there's going to be pain. There's going to be trials. But you can have peace in the midst of pain. And that's whenever you see your purpose. And that's going back last week once again. It's all based on a perspective. If you have a perspective that looks through the lens that God looks through, then you'll be able to see, man, there is a purpose behind it. Even whenever I don't see, there's a purpose.
Yeah, I think Stephen Furtick talked about it this past Sunday. He called it beta blessings.
Beta blessings.
And
I haven't watched it.
I haven't watched all of it, but I've seen some videos on it, and he talked about like a beta, like for your phone, like the beta update you get early, but it's not the full thing. Like you may not see the full thing that it's going to be. And it's like in your life, when you're going through all these trials, all this stuff, it's in beta. The blessing is in beta.
Yeah.
Because he's preparing you for what it is going to be.
Yeah.
So good. I need to go watch that. But that's from what I've watched of it, that's what I've picked up. And that's so good. Just to keep your eyes on the blessing.
Yeah.
But last question here, kind of land the plane, put a little cherry on top of this series. What can prevent us from having peace?
Yeah. So it can be summed up in one word, then I'll hit on a few. But what can prevent you from peace is sin.
Yeah.
It's sin. Bible says, don't worry. Do not worry. It's a command. It's not, well, don't worry at this time, or don't worry about this. It says, do not worry about anything. Anything. So it commands you not to. So if you're doing it, you're going against God's word. But don't worry. Do not be afraid. Don't let your fear be greater than your faith. And I would say, like, the biggest one, though, that I really want to dive into, because, man, peace can be prevented from so many different things. And I also want to throw this in there. You can have peace even in the midst of doubting. You can. You can go, man, I don't know. Like, I don't understand. But even in the midst of my doubts, I can have peace. It doesn't mean that thoughts aren't going to come. It doesn't mean that the waves aren't going to crash over you and that you're not going to be flooded with these thoughts or these emotions or these feelings. That's not what it means at all. Those are going to come, but it's, what do you do whenever they get there? What do you do with that thought whenever it gets to your mind? What do you do whenever it comes over you? Because you can't control it, but you can control whenever it gets there. So what are you going to do? But the biggest one that I've noticed as well is that will prevent you from peace is pride. And a lot of times it's like, well, how? Like, what do you mean? Like, I feel like I'm a nobody. I don't even see a purpose behind this. I don't even see a purpose in my life. How can I be prideful? What do you mean? There's no way. That's not me. But, man, that's a deep, dark place that pride does lay in. And we could dive into that, go a little deeper. We may do another series talking about this, because I think that, man, the root of all sin is pride. But, I mean, I want you to think about it, that, man, right in the middle of it all is that I. Man, I want this. I want this relationship. I want no conflict. I want everything to be peaceful in my surrounding. I want everyone to get along. I just want no cares. I just want this. I. But it's not about you. And it's not about your glory or how you feel. And it's not about you. And I think that it's a pill that's tough to swallow, but we need to. And say, man, it's not about me. And whenever you realize that, man, it's not about me, but I truly believe what God says, that it will give him glory, not me glory, but it will give him glory, and that all things will work together for the good of those who love him. Man, okay. Okay, it's not about me. And you know, in my sister's story there that we showed yesterday, that was one of the things that stuck out to me, was she talked about, we finally just let it all go. Like, there's moments you'll let stuff go, but then you'll clench on to the things that you really, 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 really think that you know what's best. Yeah. Or you feel like you really, really can't let go because, man, I'm supposed to hold this. I'm supposed to have this. But it takes that complete surrender. It takes that complete surrender and just saying, God, I trust you. And that was what I hit on last night was, do you trust him? Like, honestly, do you trust him? We talked about it with joy. Do you trust him? Talk about it with hope. Do you trust him? And it's all based on, man, if I trust him, I can let go of all of me. If I trust him, I can let go of the situation. Because if God's word is true and his promises are true, then because of his promises, I can have peace. Because of his promises, I can have joy. Because of his promises, I can have hope. But pride is one of those things that will get in the way every single time. And it will hide, and it will make you think all these other things that aren't true. But do you know the truth? Do you know God's word? Do you know his promises? Because whenever you know the truth to the lie, the truth will set you free. You know this. But it's practicing that's hard. So those are some things that really can prevent you from peace. And it boils down to complete surrender. If you're holding on to anything, man, it's going to be hard to have peace. There may be certain times that you do, but majority of the time, it's only because things are going right. What happens when things are going wrong? Things are going sideways. You didn't expect it. You don't get it. You don't understand it. I know one thing. God gives you a peace that surpasses all understanding. And he'll always be there for you. So, yeah.
That's so good. Man, I think we could talk about that for a while. Man, that was really good. Really good. But guys, that is going to be it for this episode of The Post. If you have any more questions about peace, hope, or joy, any of the things that we talked about in this series, go on and drop them in the comments, or you can send us a message on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll get right back to you with the advice that we know. But guys, we love you all. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Post. We'll see you right back here next week.